December 2025, inside a grand, opulent auditorium in Russia, world leaders sit face to face, watching history unfold in real time. A banknote is revealed in front of them, but this isn't just any ordinary piece of paper. Engraved on it are the flags of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This is not just currency. This is a weapon, one that could potentially bring down the 80-year-long dominance of the US dollar. Its name, the unit. At a time when the US dollar still dominates global trade, something massive has been quietly building behind the scenes. A powerful alliance, controlling nearly half of the world's population and a massive share of global natural resources. From the White House in America to the parliaments of Europe, one question is now creating tension everywhere. Donald Trump is threatening 100% tariffs, while on the other side, China and Russia are building an economic fortress where Western sanctions may no longer matter. But the real question is, can BRICS actually replace the dollar and create a new world order? Or will internal conflicts, especially between rivals like India and China, destroy this plan before it even succeeds? Today we dive deep to uncover the truth behind it all. If you turn back the pages of history, you'll see that this global alliance didn't begin with power. It began quietly. In 2001, Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill first used the term BRIC. At the time, it was just an idea for investors, identifying Brazil, Russia, India, and China as future economic giants. No one imagined that this simple acronym would one day challenge Western dominance itself. Then came 2009 in Yekaterinburg, Russia. The leaders of these countries sat together for the first time. That moment changed everything. The world realized this was no longer just an economic concept. It was becoming a geopolitical force. In 2010, South Africa joined, transforming BRIC into BRICS. But the real game changer came on January 1st, 2024. Ignoring pressure from the West, powerful nations like Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates officially joined the bloc. Then in 2025, Indonesia, one of Asia's biggest economies, also stepped in. BRICS was no longer a group of 5 nations. It became BRICS Plus, a growing global power. So why is the West so concerned? The answer lies in numbers and strategy. Today, BRICS controls around 36% of the world's land and nearly 46% of its population. That means almost 1 out of every 2 people on Earth belongs to a BRICS nation. But more importantly, resources. Countries like Russia, Iran, and the UAE together control nearly 44% of global oil production. On top of that, about 72% of rare earth minerals, essential for smartphones, electric vehicles, and advanced military technology, are located within BRICS nations. Even the US and Europe depend heavily on these resources. Economically, BRICS has already surpassed the G7 when measured by purchasing power parity, holding nearly 39% of global GDP. Experts predict that by 2050, China and India could dominate the global economy, overtaking both the United States and Europe. But this rise isn't just about economics, it's about geopolitics. For decades, institutions like the IMF and World Bank have been dominated by the United States, leaving developing nations with limited influence. BRICS is now positioning itself as the voice of the global South, sending a clear message. The unipolar world created after World War II is coming to an end. The future is multipolar. To break the dollar's dominance, BRICS is not relying on just one strategy. The root of this shift lies in a system called SWIFT, an international payment network based in Brussels. While it appears neutral, it is heavily influenced by the US and its allies. Whenever America wants to pressure a country, SWIFT becomes a weapon. In 2012, Iran was cut off from SWIFT, causing its oil revenue to drop nearly 50%. In 2014, after Crimea, Russia realized the same risk. And after the Ukraine war, when hundreds of billions of Russian reserves were frozen, the message became clear. Dependence on the dollar is dangerous. So BRICS responded. Russia developed its own system, SPFS, now connecting hundreds of banks. China launched CEPs, handling trillions in transactions. These parallel systems are slowly challenging SWIFT's dominance. And then comes the boldest move, the unit. Unlike traditional fiat currencies, this is designed differently. Around 40% of its value is backed by gold, while the remaining 60% is linked to BRICS nations. Local currencies, the Brazilian real, Russian ruble, Indian rupee, Chinese yuan, and South African rand. This structure gives it something the dollar, Blacks, real asset backing. Behind the scenes, a silent gold race is underway. Between 2019 and 2024, China and India alone purchased over 570 tons of gold. Today, BRICS nations collectively hold more than 6,000 tons of gold reserves, rapidly shifting away from dollar dependence. At the same time, BRICS is entering the digital battlefield with BRICS Pay, a blockchain-based, decentralized payment system. No single country controls it. No dollar conversion is needed. This reduces transaction costs and increases independence. Already, trade between China and Russia is happening in local currencies, cutting costs significantly. Around 30% of trade between China and Brazil is now done through currency swap agreements. But the United States isn't staying silent. Under Donald Trump's leadership, the response has become aggressive. Threats of 100% tariffs on BRICS nations, additional sanctions, and economic pressure have intensified. Even India, a longtime partner, has faced heavy tariffs at times. Washington now sees BRICS not just as a group, but as a direct threat to national security. Yet ironically, this pressure may be strengthening BRICS instead of weakening it. The more the US uses the dollar as a weapon, the more BRICS nations feel the need to create alternatives. But here's the biggest twist. BRICS' greatest weakness isn't external, it's internal. The relationship between India and China is complicated. Border tensions, strategic rivalry, and conflicting interests continue to create friction. India does not want BRICS to become an anti-US military alliance. Instead, it is following a balanced strategy, maintaining ties with both BRICS and the West. India is also investing heavily in its own digital currency, the e-rupee, aiming to use it in international trade. Rather than supporting a single BRICS currency fully, India prefers a system where each nation trades using its own digital currency. This approach reduces dependence on the dollar while maintaining economic independence. Conflicts don't end there. Iran and Saudi Arabia have long-standing rivalries. Egypt and Ethiopia have disputes over water resources. Economic imbalance is another issue. China's economy is far larger than the rest, raising concerns that BRICS could eventually become China-dominated. Even BRICS financial mechanisms are not fully independent yet. In some cases, countries still rely on IMF support. These internal challenges could slow down or even derail the entire project. So now we come to the ultimate question. Will BRICS truly replace the US dollar? The answer is not simple. The dollar is still strong. It won't collapse overnight. But what we are witnessing is the rise of a parallel financial system. If BRICS successfully implements its strategies, the unit, BRICS Pay, and local currency trade, then within the next decade, up to 15–20% of global trade could shift away from the dollar. A new world order may emerge, not dominated by one currency, but shared between multiple powers, dollar, euro, and maybe the unit. But all of this depends on one thing: unity. If BRICS nations fail to overcome their internal conflicts, this massive vision could collapse like a house of cards. So the real question is not whether BRICS can defeat the dollar. The real question is, can BRICS survive itself?